Felicia here. So we are moving into the section about the law of influence. And so the first chapter of this section is build networks. So the authors of the book pretty much say that, and I quote, genuine influence comes from reputation. So what they mean by reputation is being that person that helps people get what they want, committing to helping other people get what they want. So yeah, and they go in and talk about formal or structural influence and moral influence. So basically the difference between the two is that structural or formal focus on pushing. So, and I quote, in sales, pushing is telling people what you want, and pulling is finding out what they want. And so getting to know the other person again, figuring out their story, what their needs are, what their wants are, and basically if you have what they need. So, and if it fits. And they basically emphasize it's better to help each other than to go against each other. And so they label this as dog help dog instead of the dog eat dog world. Yeah, I would also include in there that it's easier to be nice or easier to be pleasant than unpleasant. It's easier to help. Well, it's not easier to help, but I guess it would have to take a certain person to step up and say, hey, how can I help you? Have that mindset of the helper, but also with boundaries. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, when you have the right mindset, you can be very helpful with also putting your own boundaries. You don't want people to take advantage of you. And I'm not a salesperson. I'm not in sales yet, but I've been in customer service, so it's very similar. Don't let people take advantage of you, and you'll figure that out as you go. Sometimes we can't really say what that thing is until we live it or if we experience it. But yeah, in everything, put boundaries up. But yeah, we can still have an influence, right? If you like doing one-on-ones, whatever that looks like, helping people in customer service one-on-one or online doing coaching one-on-one, or even doing consultations if you have the expertise, if you like one-on-one, that one person can give you plenty of referrals, right? So I think that's it for building networks. So the authors, sorry, it's really late. The authors of the Go Give or Sell More, they give an example toward the end of this chapter, basically saying there was a woman who worked for a mortgage company, and that a couple came to her and said they wanted to help this other person by buying their house so later on they can afford it. I think it's church people. So the lady at the mortgage company, accepted the offer without having any pay. Basically, she did it for free. She didn't get a commission for that. And they helped this couple from church buy this home from this person, and she did such a great job that she got a lot more referrals through that client or experience. And with those future ones, she got commission for those plenty. So yeah, we always want to help people, but then again, be, wise about it, be discerned about it. Like, if you've known or know of these people, like at this example, they go to her church, so they kind of know each other or kind of knew of each other, and so she was able to help the couple, and then the couple was able to help that person. So that's just an example. I'm wondering if I have any examples. Not at the top of my head. I haven't been working full time in a long time, but when I do, okay, so when I was a case manager, right, I was managing staff that helped people with disabilities. So just by being me and just how I am, some people wanted me while I was in training, still like the first 3 months. While I was in training, I trained in certain people's houses or residential, living situations. Some of the staff members that I hardly even knew, but just had a few interactions with them, very pleasant interactions, they wanted me to be their case manager, but I ended up not being their case manager. So, that's one thing. Yeah, just I feel like I'm an honest person, a trustworthy person. I guess I said that kind of not very confident, but yes, I am a trustworthy person. And I think people can see that. People can sense your vibration, your vibe. They can also sense if you have like a hidden agenda, or if you're just faking it, all that stuff. But yeah, I haven't worked a lot the past 5 years, only part-time because I had my kids. So yeah, well, the friend that I have now, we worked together before, but we didn't like hang out, after work or anything. We just knew each other at a professional level, and then but we kept in touch, or I kept in touch off and on the last almost 9 years. Anyway, that's it for now. The law of influence. And so this chapter 14 is called fuzzy influence. So the main idea of this chapter is that we don't get new opportunities from warm leads or cold leads. It's those people in the middle. The authors call them fuzzy influence. So, and in the beginning of this chapter, Berg and Mann discuss that each person is basically their own sphere of influence, and that sphere of influence can be up to 250 people. And so it's 250 people in their life, not in any given moment. I was confused. Okay, so then there was a guy, Joe Girard, that said he was the greatest salesperson in the world, coined the law of 250. So he said that, according to him. And then every human is the center of his or her own human internet. So I guess you could say that's right. We do come across people, friends of friends for one, people we see at the grocery store, the bank tellers, our dentists, doctors, dry cleaners, massage therapists, chiropractors, those kind of a thing. You know, we see them, we know them, but we don't really know them. So they're like the in-between. Even the mailman, if you guys have a regular mailman, a handyman that comes fix your house, your mechanic, your dog sitter, babysitter, those people. So basically your sphere of influence, your reputation, right? So, and the old saying goes, it's who you know. And so they added to this quote saying, it's not just who you know, it's who knows you and who knows about you, even if they haven't actually met you. So it's worth, learning how to communicate. It's worth being kind and helpful, professional even, learning your boundaries and, figuring out your emotional intelligence or your emotional awareness so that we can all operate in this world and help each other. So I thought that was a good point, a good takeaway from this chapter. It's who knows about you. So that's why reputation is important. Genuine influence is the reputation. So it's not exactly your friends and they're not exactly strangers. So like I said, it could be those people at bank tellers, cashiers. And they also mentioned, according to Dr. Granovetter, you're not very likely to learn new opportunities from people that you know because they're in the same world as you. I mean, that's obvious, right? It's the people, what do you say? So Dr. Granovetter calls that weak ties have more of an influence on you about, giving you new opportunities. And these new opportunities or these weak ties are places or people you would have never expected. And then, they give their own example in the book. But let me see if I have any examples. Well, so one example, before I had my second son, I was working two part-time jobs. They're both caregiving roles, but the main one during the week, it wasn't really a physical job, but I knew this client from a different position. Like I used to work for an agency, and then this client was a consumer. And then when I had my first son, after a year having my first son, the mom of this client sort of reached out to me, we didn't know each other. Like we didn't go out and hang out because she was a much older lady and my client was in his probably he just turned 40, and the mom was in her late 70s and she was sick. So because I've known the client from a different capacity, the mom had told me that she wanted pictures of my baby because I had worked with her son for 6 months or so, and she was really nice to me, very kind. And I sent pictures a couple times a month, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. I did that for a long time, a year maybe, and then I found out she was sick and I needed a part-time job, and she asked me if I was available and that I could bring my son, and that's how that worked out during the week. So I worked 3 days during the week and I was able to bring my son. I just needed any type of income, and it was easy. It wasn't it was easy, but it was simple, I would say that. There was no physical work that I had to do. So that could be an example of my fuzzy influence, because I think at the time I was helping her son at her house. So because he was recovering from something, even though he lived 2 miles away. So in my opinion, I think she liked the way I interacted with him. Her son has Down syndrome. He's just a few years older than me, so I think she would sit in another room, like read a book, but I think she would hear me talk to him and, you know, hear me interact with him. Yeah, so I think she liked that about me, and I was a little bit older than maybe other people that I've worked with him before. Yeah, so she was probably an example of a fuzzy influence. Who else? Well, my friend now, but years before we weren't like close or anything. She was just like a past coworker that I had her number, and she helped me get a job. She helped me like leave a job that I didn't like. So that back then that was probably considered a fuzzy influence, but now she's a warm lead. She's a warm contact. But yeah, so this friend, she like knows how hard I work, and she knows that I have really good integrity, and I think that's just how I've always been. I like to, for example, this is just examples, like go to work on time, right? Really get to know the client, take notes, get to the meeting or whatever 10 to 15 minutes before it starts. Yeah, I would say that my customer service experience really helped with that. So salon and then working with people with disabilities. So my customer service really helped with that, because I felt comfortable doing one-on-ones and taking the time to get to know people instead of like a revolving door where like I see 20 people in one day. But yeah, fuzzy influence, I totally agree, helps, because I didn't have to. Yeah, so with my friend, she hired me on when I needed that job, so I didn't really do like a formal interview. And then with the mom and the client, I didn't do an interview, they just hired me on. So yeah, I'm not, yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you have fuzzy influence, that could be your trajectory too. You don't really, like, if you're looking for a job or new opportunity, people already know of you. They like you, trust you. That's the whole premise. People want to follow who they like and trust. And usually you don't have to do like interviews if it's a job. They just pretty much hire you on. But needless to say, it's still important to know interview skills. That's another thing that I would like to improve on, like asking the right questions. But anyway, so this fuzzy influence chapter was really insightful, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.